this is Jennifer from Emulsifiedfamily.com. Today I want to talk a little bit more about parenting alongside a chef, and I want to focus today on the newborn phase. It's a tough time. It's a lot of adjustment when you bring home this new little baby from the hospital. I'll never forget the first night we were back at home. My husband and I looking at each other and just kind of freaked out and scared and thinking, why in the world would the hospital let us come home with this baby? We don't know what we're doing. And we were so grateful that my mother-in-law was staying the night with us, and she was sleeping on the couch and had our beautiful little daughter in like a bouncy seat next to her, and we were gonna try to get a little bit of sleep. But I'll never forget just being so grateful that she was there that first night, because we were just scared as new parents. We didn't know what to do. And obviously, we figured it out just like everyone else does, but it's intimidating. One interesting thing for me, I think that stands out when we first became parents, was that my husband did not have all the answers. I know that sounds kind of funny, but my husband is extremely intelligent, and he remembers the majority of what he reads and hears. So whenever I have a question, obviously a cooking question as a chef, he has never not known the answer to that. If I have a question about the Bible or something I'm doing in my Bible study, if he doesn't know the answer, he can figure it out and know where to go in the Bible for that answer relatively quickly. And so all of a sudden we come to this parenting, and I ask him a question, and he just looks at me and he's like, "Jennifer, I have absolutely no idea." And that, I just remember being shocked. I'm like, "What do you mean you don't have any idea? How do you not know the answer to this question?" And which he says, "Well, you were an elementary school teacher for 10 years. And I'm like, "Yeah, but those are 10-year-olds. This is a newborn baby. I don't know what to do with this little sweet thing that's crying, and I'm trying to breastfeed and it's not working, and I'm tired, and you're working a lot, and yeah, there's so much going on." But he didn't have the answers. That was a big shock for me to understand, and we were really in this together and learning alongside each other. As far as the infancy stage and the infant stage and how what that looks like when you're married to a chef, you're on your own a lot. If you're watching this video and you have a little baby or have kids at all, I know you can relate to that. You're it. I mean, I know moms, we are more hands-on with the newborn usually than dads, just especially for breastfeeding. And so that's just kind of a fact. But I remember feeling very alone and lonely. I had lots of emotions just going on. I just remember crying, dealing with postpartum depression and all that stuff. And then on top of just being by myself a lot, because my husband, while he was home for the first couple days after our daughter was born, he was at work. And while my life had drastically changed, I had stopped working full-time. I was getting ready to turn 30, which who cares, but at the moment that felt like a big deal to me. Or I guess I had just turned 30, I don't know, whatever. At the time, it just seemed like a big deal. I felt like my whole life was changing. And one thing that I didn't realize actually until last year, when my husband and I were talking about the different ways I've supported him over the years in the kitchen, and kind of how that looked with kids, he said to me, "Jennifer, when we had kids, my life changed, but not nearly as dramatically as yours." He said he would get up and go to work, and yes, now instead of just leaving me at home, he was leaving me and a small child at home. But when he got to work, it was still the same work. And while maybe an occasional person would say, "Hey, how's the baby, doing?" I mean, that was it. He wasn't, things are crazy in the kitchen. He wasn't, sitting around thinking about being a new dad and having a new baby at home. He was, worrying about getting the food out on the line and having it be the quality it should be, and training his crew and doing all that kind of stuff. I can picture that in my head. And then he would come home to, a more tired wife and a baby and crying in the middle of the night and things like that. But really, his life did not change that much, especially compared to mine. And I guess I never really thought about that. That my life was just so drastically different after we had children. While his was different, it just wasn't nearly the same. And that was actually his observation, and I thought that was interesting, so I wanted to share that. So I think some of the things that I struggled with the most when we first had our first child was, I mean, besides not having any idea what to do at all, was just being completely exhausted and getting up in the middle of the night. I know that a lot of families share that, husbands and wives share that responsibility of getting up in the middle of the night, but for me, I'm such a light sleeper that the couple times my husband did offer to feed our daughter in the middle of the night, I was awake the whole time, and yet he could sleep through it if I got up. So I might as well have just gotten up, and I did. I just said, sleep, go ahead and sleep and let me just get up. Plus I was staying home full time, so you know, pretty selfish to say, hey, you just worked 16 hours. Could you please get up and feed the baby so I can sleep? You know, that's not, it wasn't okay to do that, at least in my opinion. So, and I know that he was grateful to be able to sleep, but it's a struggle to get up and do that day after day and to feel like you don't get a break at all. And especially when the baby's teething and crying and you don't know what to do and your husband doesn't know what to do. And you just really feel alone and by yourself, no one to talk to except this sweet little baby, which is very cute. But sometimes you just need an adult to talk to, or even, anyone that can talk. You just need someone to talk to. I do remember when my husband would get home, if I would wake up at the time at 2 in the morning when he would get home, or on the phone if he would call, I would just talk his ear off. And I'd have to stop myself and apologize for just rambling because I had just been by myself all day with no one to talk to. So he would call and I would go crazy, and poor guy was just on like noise and sensory overload from working a billion hours, and he got that. So he was always good about listening, but I did have to be careful to not totally talk his ear off because that was easy to do. I will say that looking back at when we had our second and third child and what the infant stage looked like then, I think that was probably more of a change for my husband than maybe just having our first child. And that's because before he left for work in the mornings, instead of just maybe snuggling with a new baby and spending time with me, he had 1 or 2 small little children crawling or walking around the house following him. And so there was less time to relax or maybe do things that he wanted to. There was just always somebody, and is always somebody or something that needs to be done. So I think that was moving from 1 to 2 kids in the infant stage, especially when I was busy with the feeding. He was definitely a lot more active than with the older kids and taking care of their needs, whereas when it was just 1 child, it was different, a little bit easier. So that is one thing that I noticed. So, wow, being married to a chef's hard enough, but adding kids makes it even tougher because of the hours they work. So thanks for listening to my thoughts on this newborn stage of life and what that looks like when you're married to a chef. I would love to know struggles and things that you've dealt with in this stage of life, either in the comments below here on YouTube or on the blog or on social media. So thanks for watching.